What's it like waiting 6 hours in line for Lorcana, and are you excited to get cards?
Yes, I'm excited to get cards, and it's tiring.
It's tiring. Did you enjoy the donuts?
Yes.
At long last, Disney Lorcana made its public debut at GenCon 2023. It was a debut full of excitement, Disney passion, a few surprises, and a little bit of drama. So buckle up, because this was a long and memorable weekend. GenCon is the largest and longest running gaming convention in North America, and now takes place in Indianapolis. Their mission is to create opportunities, experiences, and communities where people can share the joy of games together. This year, the RavensBurger team was there in full force, sporting their iconic blue shirts and managing 3 separate areas in the Indianapolis Convention Center. In Hall 131, RavensBurger featured a Learn to Play session where lucky ticket holders could experience the game for the first time, while receiving instruction from the game's designers, playtesters, and some other passionate fans. The room was bedecked in Lorcana artwork, making the experience immersive and memorable. In the main hall, RavensBurger sold Lorcana cards and accessories alongside their other games and products. There was a limited amount of product available each day, and accessing that product wasn't always a smooth process. Now, that is a story all its own, and we'll talk about it later. Because to fully understand it, you have to understand the excitement for this game, excitement that was evident all throughout the convention. In the second area, the Lorcana team, led by organized play lead John Grant, ran the biggest ever Lorcana tournament event, a starter deck challenge with 7 waves, each of which sent the top 8 participants into a surprise Sunday final event. Oh, and they also received a really cool playmat. While this was the first tournament stateside, it was technically the second tournament held by RavensBurger, with the first being a small pre-release 3-round Swiss tournament in Berlin, Germany. Nevertheless, participants received these delightful certificates at the end, marking them as players in the first sanctioned tournament. During the 7 qualifying rounds, fans received a random starter deck to use in the event. In a surprise twist, John announced that players could modify their deck with cards from their booster pack without color restriction. Those familiar with Lorcana's rules know that decks must be limited to 2 different color inks. But in this event, players could ignore that 2-color limit, for example, playing an Emerald Long John Silver in a Sapphire and Steel deck. I received Amethyst and Amber, which performed very well in the first 2 rounds, and not quite as well in round 3. The top 8 of each event was asked to return on Sunday for the finals. The format was a mystery. When the finalists arrived on Sunday morning, it turned out that the format was sealed, but this time, rather than receive a starter deck, players received 6 booster packs with which to construct a 40-card deck. And again, there was no color restriction.
I got a foil Dingle Hopper!
Those who won all 3 Swiss rounds and finished in the top 8 received these prizes, including a playmat signed by some key members of the Lorcana team. But perhaps the biggest news this weekend was the reveal of a 6th rarity for Lorcana cards, Enchanted Rares. On Thursday, news of 12 secret, never-before-seen cards took the Lorcana world by storm, with fans clamoring for pictures as they were discovered. These full art cards featured alternative versions of some of the most iconic cards in the first set, instant must-haves for many collectors. To celebrate the news, the Lorcana team announced that the first person to discover each of the rares would be invited to a special event on Sunday. Just tweet Enchanted Seeker alongside a picture of your card to enter. Those who were verified to be the first to see each enchanted rare were invited to an exclusive multiplayer event where they got to hang out with RavensBurger Staff, making their GenCon even more special. These people will forever be the first Enchanted Seekers. If excitement for Lorcana was a 10 before, this cranked it up to 11. It made the clamor for card packs even stronger. And to me, it seemed like Lorcana was the talk of GenCon. Although not everyone was necessarily into it, everyone was at least aware of it. For example, upon receiving her card, an Anna cosplayer knew what it was instantly, exclaiming, "How did you find me? These are rare commodities." Ursula cried, "My babies," upon receiving Flotsam and Jetsam, but was a little less excited to see Ariel. And Rapunzel, of course, was excited to receive another frying pan because, well, you can never have too many. Speaking of cosplay, we saw multiple Lorcana outfits, including this delightful Tinkerbell by professional cosplayer Sinead Beckham, and this amazing Sorcerer Mickey by Captain Octotrough of Lorcana. And some Lorcana artists were even in attendance. Nicholas Kole, one of the featured artists in the first chapter, with illustrations such as Elsa, Simba, Maleficent, and Aurora, signed cards in the RavensBurger booth for 3 days, gracing his illustrations with his silver NK signature. Lorcana artist Lauren Walsh was at her own booth, signing Aladdin after Aladdin for excited fans, her first taste of what it meant to be a Lorcana artist. And to round out the trio of artists at the convention, artist and Lorcana art director Pick Smith was there with the RavensBurger team, one of the 2 artists who contributed to Bell Inventor. To celebrate the launch of the game, the unofficial Lorcana fan club of the Lorcana HQ Discord server traveled to Indianapolis from around the country, reserving a ballroom for a Lorcana meetup, complete with custom jerseys, raffles, and lots of smiles. Steve Warner and Ryan Miller even made an appearance to chat with fans. But the event was not without its hiccups and missteps, and it's time we talked about the biggest one. Remember how I mentioned limited product availability each day? Well, it's a story all its own, and it begins with excitement. Excitement that had been building for nearly a year. Excitement that crescendoed on Thursday morning with a crowd rushing through the exhibition hall doors to the RavensBurger booth, causing chaos and a little bit of fear in some of those caught in the rush. The crowd began forming early, with fans lining up outside the convention center in the early hours of the morning, foregoing sleep in order to be the first in line.
What's up, everybody? It's currently 5:30. We are waiting for the doors to the ICC to open. I mean, we've already got all these people waiting out here outside the hall, and we still have 30 minutes to go before the doors even open. So, it's going to be crazy.
What started as a group eventually became a mass of people who, despite little guidance, respectfully formed their own Lorcana line, generally in the order that they arrived.
Alright, we made it inside the building. They've got us set up in these lines. I'm about halfway in the middle of it right now, so hopefully they've got at least enough product to supply half the line they have created. We'll see.
This line stretched out the Indianapolis Convention Center and down the block. These fans wanted to be the first in the world to open Lorcana packs. News organizations, hearing of the giant queue, arrived at the convention center to cover the story, asking Lorcana fans why they spent over 10 hours in line for this new game. As the time to open the hall doors drew near, those not interested in Lorcana, and perhaps a couple that were, coalesced around the hall doors so they could be the first to get to their favorite exhibitor. But then the trouble started. A GenCon staff member announced to those within ear range that the line which snaked through the hallways and out the door meant nothing, and that no one would enforce the order of arrival. GenCon doesn't do lines, is the phrase relayed to us. After that, you can imagine what happened. Word spread and the line collapsed. With no one managing the thousands of people waiting to enter, people rushed inside. We won't sugarcoat it, it was a very scary experience for many who were in the crush of people, and we were lucky no one was seriously hurt. And to cap off the unfortunate event, most of those who had lined up first, outside on the sidewalk in the wee hours of the morning, ended up in the back of the eventual queue and received nothing. It was a preventable incident, and fans wondered how GenCon and RavensBurger would respond. Over the next day, the 2 parties came together to institute changes. If either party had doubted the sky-high demand for Lorcana cards and the rush it would cause, they didn't now. It was evident what would happen if the crowds were ignored. On Thursday afternoon, GenCon and RavensBurger announced that the line for Lorcana would begin forming at 6 p.m. and be monitored through the night by GenCon staff. At 4 a.m. on Friday morning, this is what the line looked like.
42.
43.
44. 45.
46.
47.
48. 49.
As it got later, the line began to grow. And despite the chaos the day before, fans were cordial, friendly, playing games and bantering about their excitement for Lorcana. At about 6 a.m., a surprise. RavensBurger staff arrived on scene with promo cards and pins. After handing them out, they provided bracelets to indicate who is in line at this point in time, preventing cutting from late arrivals. And the biggest surprise of all, RavensBurger then rolled in full force, with Dunkin' Donuts, coffee, water, and orange juice for hundreds of fans in line. Leading the charge was Philip Frank, Global Head of Games of RavensBurger North America, who set the tone for the morning by personally hustling up and down the line with cups of coffee and treats for everyone who asked. It was night and day from the previous morning. Ryan Miller, the game's brand manager and co-designer, made an appearance to hang out with fans as they waited. And when the doors opened at 10 o'clock, things were orderly and calm. The fans who showed up early and waited had a chance to purchase products, with RavensBurger staff controlling the line at their booth. Plenty of staff were on hand throughout the day, with the creative director, Shane Hartley, standing by to chat with fans and sign autographs if asked. And I asked. For all the disorder of Thursday, the rest of the weekend went smoothly, and fans kept coming. Like this party, who made a last-minute trip. What time did you get here this morning?
Last night at 4 p.m.
Last night at 4 p.m. in the afternoon?
Yes.
And you lined up at 4 p.m. in the afternoon?
Yes.
Why? So what I can't math that out, but that's crazy early. Why are you here so early for this game?
We just wanted to get the product. I was worried that in a couple weeks we wouldn't be able to get it. We actually weren't going to go to GenCon this year. 5 a.m. Saturday morning, I woke up. I'm like, we need to go. We need to go get in line. And so I got a hold of him. We drove 5 hours, and then we waited 18 hours.
What is it about a game that excites you?
It looks amazing. I mean, the art, the gameplay, everything looks great. It looks fantastic.
That's awesome. Hey, congrats on being first in line.
Thanks.
But they were rewarded around midnight when RavensBurger Staff showed up with a life-size Inkcaster for them to practice wielding. The Inkcaster continued to make their rounds, and it was one of the cooler props of the weekend. And the Lorcana events kept coming. At an exclusive press event, RavensBurger had Lorcana-themed decor, food, and created custom Illumineer cards for lucky attendees. These pictures, courtesy of Kole, give us a look at what it was like inside. And do you want to see the biggest Lorcana game ever? Here you go. As GenCon winded down and the RavensBurger team began packing up, I left for home. But as I arrived at the airport, I was greeted by one final Lorcana surprise, a game being played by travelers waiting for their flight, a game that wasn't possible just 5 days before. Lorcana was in the wild. Unfortunately, the events of Thursday morning will forever be a part of Lorcana's history, but so will all the amazing events and moments that came afterward. You know, it's easy to see card games as commodities, stocks, or mere cardboard, and for some, that's all they'll ever be. But for many others, a card game can be so much more. It can bring people together, creating friendships and communities. It can tap into nostalgia and childhood memories, and they can spark joy. Lorcana did all of that this weekend and more. And for the Lorcana team, the game is a piece of art they lovingly crafted and molded for many years, through the challenges of the pandemic so they could hand us the best product possible. And now that they've handed it to us, I can't wait to see what the world does with it.